Hi folks, Toad Hancock's here with Visordown.com, and we have just spent a rather lovely day blasting around the Northamptonshire countryside on Husqvarna's brilliantly bonkers 701 Svartpilen. So this is an 8899, so £8,899 motorcycle, which is based around KTM's old 690 Duke. With a few upgrades, so tweaked the engine a little bit, got a little bit more power, and given it this wacky, bonkers sort of makeover that you can see here. Let's get into the technicalities of it first. So the engine. So you probably all recognise the engine in this. So it's the 693cc single cylinder 4-valve thumper that we've known for quite some time. It's tweaked a little bit, different airbox and different fueling on this one compared to any of the other KTM models. So it's pushing out about 75 brake horsepower, which is quite a lot, and it is quite peaky as well. It's not the kind of the big torquey thumper that you think where it all comes in down low. It sort of peak powers around about 8,000 RPM, and we're putting around about 70 Newton meters of torque, or 53 foot-pounds. So yeah, there is torque there, but it's all kind of shifted up the rev range a little bit. Kind of comes in at 5, peaks out by about 7.5. But all in all, unless you are just chugging around town quite slowly, the motor's very tractable and is best used on a twisty B road. This is an ideal machine to go scratching on. So as you'd expect, we've got a full complement of WP suspension on this. We've got a preload adjustable rear shock, which is one of the Apex WP models, and we've got WP suspension up front, which is both rebound and compression adjustable. All in all, the suspension is really quite trick. It's taut, but it's not overly harsh, and it's not crashy in any way, shape or form, but it is firm. You hit a bump on this and you know about it, but there isn't any of that kind of crashing around. The bike doesn't bottom out at all, so it is pretty firmly set up. It is adjustable. I haven't bothered to adjust it because it suits my riding style, but in terms of the actual kind of the plushness of it, it is quite a firm setup on the suspension. Onto the handling of the bike. So one of the notes that I've made down here is that it is, with the suspension being firm but a little bit supple, the handling of it, the handling characteristics of it, is really precise. You pick a line, you pick an apex, and it will hit it. It's even on these pseudo flat track tyres, which are the Pirelli MT60 RS's, and even those which have got quite big blocks on them, you can still hammer it into a corner. You're not going to be doing any knee skids, or I'm certainly not anyway, but that's kind of not what this bike is about. This bike is about looking cool and having fun, and that is one thing that you can definitely do with the way that the chassis and the suspension are set up. It's not the lightest of bikes out there. I think it comes in at about 160 kgs or 150 kgs. But that doesn't hurt it in any way, shape or form. It's not a problem to move it around, and even when you're hammering along, you know, pulling it from apex to apex isn't a big deal at all. All in all, I would say this bike is more at home on a twisty B road than anywhere else. It's okay around town, but motorways is a bit of a waste. You've got no wind protection. Anything above 100 miles an hour just becomes tiresome after about 30 seconds. So get yourself a sunny day, get yourself a B road, get a test ride on one, and I'm sure you will absolutely love it. One of the jewels in this bike's crown are the brakes, which I'm totally mesmerised by, because there's one less disc than you get on a normal sports bike, yet you've got what feels to me to be exactly the same level of bite and power on the brakes. They're absolutely awesome. I don't know whether Husqvarna have put some sintered pads in them, but my god, they will pull your eyeballs out of your sockets and fire them at the inside of your visor. They're that good. We've got a Bosch ABS system, which is hooked up to a single 320mm 4-pot Brembo caliper at the front, and we've got a single 240mm Brembo caliper at the rear. Both brakes, front and rear, have got really good feel, so you know exactly how much brake you're applying to the bike, and from that first initial tiny pull of the lever, the bike is absolutely spot on. I'm really surprised, because I looked at the brake, and I've ridden single disc Husqvarna's like the Supermoto 701, and the brakes on that felt a little bit vague, but these are absolutely top spec. So what do you get with this bike in terms of equipment? Apart from the hardware, you do get traction control, which is switchable, although they don't really advertise that to you. There's a little blanked off button on the left hand side at the bottom of the dash, and if you press and hold that button while the engine's running but the bike isn't moving, it will say keep button pressed, and then it will say release button, and then when you do, it turns the traction control off and you can wheelie until your heart's content. What else have you got? You've got quite a clustered dash. The dash on these is almost like a Casio G-Shock watch, where you've got the rev count around the outside, and then all of the information that you need is in this little space that's about the size of a £2 coin. It's bigger than a £2 coin. It's not ideal, it is usable, and once you've got used to where everything is, you can find it pretty quickly, but I prefer to be able to just straight away look at a dash and know exactly where to find everything that I need, and I do find this one a little bit clustered. That said, it's got everything you need. It's got a couple of trip meters, it's got your range to empty, it's got your average speed, it's got your trip time. You know, what more do you want on a bike like this? Not a lot, I'd say. So, what do we like about the bike? I really like the styling, and I like the fact that if you buy one, you're probably not going to see another one coming the other way down the road. I think it's pretty cool, and it is quite exclusive. I'm really surprised by the way it handles, because on paper with these tyres and this styling, you don't expect it to be quite as good as it is, but it is. It's a properly fun bike to hoon around a country lane on, as I've been doing all day today. Comfort's good as well, so the seat, although it's fairly firm and fairly wide, you feel like you could ride this bike for 2 or 3 hours and be absolutely spot on and not have any issues whatsoever. And I also like the fact that Husqvarna have got the bollocks to go out there and make something that is this crazy, because there's a lot of motorcycle manufacturers in the market at the minute who just build the same bike or an evolution of another bike, and Husqvarna are taking it a completely different style, and I like it, and I'd like to see where it's going to end up. It's got quite a small tank, 12 litres. It's not the smallest in the naked bike class. Katana, which has only got 11, and that's 1,000, but it is a small tank, 12 litres. I've been hammering around all day and I've got about a quarter of a tank's worth of fuel left. So yeah, the reserve light's going to be going on the way back to Silverstone, and I'm probably going to have done less than about 75 miles. I'm not terribly keen on the dash. I think it looks cool on the stand at the motorcycle show, but in the real world it's just a little bit too hard to read. Yeah, sorry Husqvarna, it's a really cool idea, but maybe just not executed absolutely correctly. Another thing that I'm not 100% keen on is the fact that if you were wanting to put this bike in your garage, you would have to want this bike. For the money that it is, it's just shade under £9,000 at 8,899. You're going to really want to buy a 701 Svartpilen to put it in your garage, or you're going to have to be well off enough that you've already got the bike that you go touring on, the bike you go commuting on, and the sports bike in your garage, and this is your second or third bike effectively. I mean, this thing is pretty bonkers, to be fair. I've had a fantastic day riding around on it today, and this wasn't a bike that absolutely excited me to go and get on. I don't know why, it just never really floated my boat, but I've spent a day on it, and it is genuinely capable, and don't overlook it in favour of something that's got more cylinders, because this is a potent engine in a really well put together chassis with top spec suspension and brakes. And I bet if you put a set of Diablo Supercoursers or Diablo Rossers or whatever it is that fits it on this machine, you would be absolutely caning it on a B road or even on a track day if you wanted. If you like the look of it, get yourself to a Husqvarna dealer, get yourself a test ride. I'm sure you'll come back with a smile on your face. Thank you for watching.